Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This will be the second half of us installing Marty's e-fuel kit on the Lawn Ranger project. Now, we had already done a video on the valley here and we set it all up. Now, this part will be setting up the fuel filter bases and the pump. Now, we have the nice Marty's diesel billet bases here. These are very, very nice. We kind of went over these in the previous video. We are using the Bosch pump, and we will be setting this up a little bit differently than how Marty's wants you to set it up, but I'm going to show you how to set this up the way Marty's intended. So we'll go over that this way, and then in the third video, so we're going to do another part to this video, and that part of the video will show you what we're doing differently. So this will be outside the box thinking. It'll be deviating from Marty's plan, but I wanted to show you a video of installing this the way that he intended you to install it. Now, you have the billet bases here. You have your ports front and rear, okay? And these are marked out, as you can see. Out over here, flip it around, in, okay? So whenever you're doing this, it comes just like so. We have unplugged the wiring harness from it to make it a little bit easier to handle, but it's very, very foolproof from Marty's as long as you can read and comprehend. Now, if you've never done a fuel system like this, I highly suggest you watch all the videos and you try to familiarize yourself with an e-fuel install on these trucks, because people have done it a million different ways and people haven't done it at all. So if you aren't familiar with this, he provides a lot of videos, provides a lot of information. However, it's still easy to screw up if you can't familiarize yourself with it. So we're going to go ahead and get these installed today, but I'm going to show you that you have the bases here. You have your two threaded inserts. I guess they wouldn't be inserts, but they're threaded into the billet block. And he provides you with two of these brackets. Now, it's hard to tell, but there's a long side and a short side. Your short side is the frame side. Your long side is the filter side, okay? So you are infinitely adjustable, obviously, to their limits, and then you have an up and down for your frame side. Now, the way that this is designed, it is designed that you bolt the long side to the top here, obviously leaving it loose so you can adjust it, all right? Now, we have our filter-based hardware bag. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to open this up. Now, inside this bag, you have 4 plugs. All right, these plugs are for the filter base itself. You have the bolts with the washer and a nut. These are your frame bolts. These are what bolt the bracket to the frame. You have 4 of these smaller nuts or smaller bolts, and they are to mount the base to the bracket. And then you have your adapter fittings. Now, this is the in and out adapters for your filters. So this will be what you hook your line to. All right, so we got our filter bases here, and we have 4 plugs. You can see I've installed 2 already. 4 frame bolts and 4 filter head bolts that are for these brackets. Now, if you're doing an inside mount, your mount would be like this, with your out facing the front of the truck and your in facing the back of the truck. So outside mount is the same. However, your outside mount would have your ports flipped. Now, we're doing an inside mount. So I have these ports plugged, and then we're going to go ahead and put our vacuum gauge on the suction side of the pump. Now, that'll be this side here. It'll be hitting this, so you want to see how much vacuum that you're actually installing. Now, there is a right way and a wrong way to install Teflon tape. Easiest way to figure out which way is which is righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So if you put your tape on starting like so, your end would be like this. And as you thread the fitting in, it'll tear the tape off. So you want to make sure that you install this so that your ending edge of your Teflon will be working with the threading. So once again, you're turning to the right, so you want to make sure that you start your leading edge so you'd be turning to the right. Now everybody uses white Teflon. If you are using a different type of fuel, say like biodiesel, whatever, you'd want to use something like the yellow gas tape, because biofuel eats the white tape. Now we have this extra plug here. After we do our vacuum test, the gauge will come out and that plug will go in. So here's your setup, ready to go. You can go ahead and put your brackets on. Now, like I had said before, the short side is your frame side, the long side is your filter side. And these are 7/16. So we're just going to give these a quick snug. Now what you have here is you have it set up, it's ready to go. You can mount this on your frame. So like I had said, this is set up for your inside mount, all right? If you did your outside mount, you'd want your gauge on the opposite side of this rear filter base, all right? Because that way you could see the gauge. Like, so if you mount it on the inside of the rail, just like the truck is sitting, you can read the gauge from the inside. Now he gives you these Donaldson short filters, all right? So I'm going to show you the difference between in length to, say, a comparable Napa filter. So we have our Napa filter here. Now you can see your height difference. So if you are going for the inconspicuous look, then the short filters are the way to go. And these are nice because they're cheaper than the Napa filters, and then also they are a lot shorter, which is great. Now, they come with this O-ring here, all right? So when you open this up, you got this little O-ring. You might be thinking, what's this little O-ring for? So the little O-ring goes on here. Now, I'm not going to install these filters tight. I'm just going to put them on loose to give you an idea of what they look like. So once you get that put on there like that, you can go ahead and spin your filter on. Like I said, I'm going to pull these back off later on, and we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of fuel on those O-rings to help them seat better. Now, both of these Donaldson filters do come with these O-rings. If you buy a set like the Napa Golds, they don't always come with. So, go ahead and slide those on. Same thing here. We'll just give her a little bit of a snug because we're trying to just get a fitment application. So this is what you should have. Your vacuum gauge should be on the side with the water separator. So the water separator would be the one with the nipple at the bottom, all right? So this is your setup. Now you need to figure out where you can mount this in your truck, and that's why these braces are slotted in the back. So we'll go ahead and we'll take this over to the truck and we'll show you how you can put this on if you have a crew cab. Now we're working with a 96 truck here, so we have the 4407, which is a little bit bigger of a transfer case. So if you have your 1356, which would be your 95 and older transfer cases, this transfer case isn't going to be set back as far. Now, as you can see, you can't mount this here over the frame rail like he said you may be able to. Now it depends on the truck, obviously. The reason you can't do this is because of your fitting here. So your fitting will run directly into this cross member. So the only way to really mount these on a crew cab with the 4407 is you have to mount them inside the frame rail like so. All right, there is one hole that you can grab here, and this gives you the freedom to install everything inside your rail. Now, if you install it like this, you're going to be able to see about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of the filter on the bottom, and we are not going to be installing this on the inside frame rail like this. However, you do have adequate clearance between your cross member and also your transfer case. So this is how you would install this. Now, I had said we're going to be doing this a little bit differently, but we'll be doing that a little bit later. Now, you also can see that we don't have our fuel fittings installed here, so we're going to get those installed whenever we go ahead and start getting this all plumbed. Now, let me set this down. Your next order of business is going to be here. Now, I have these fuel lines pulled away from the frame to allow me to get in behind them a little bit easier for brackets, and then also to get to these fuel line fitting clips here. Now, your fuel selector is in the back here, right here. Your return is your outside edge. Your feed is your inside edge. There are little clips on here, and I'm going to go ahead and remove these off of here. So I'll show you how to get these little clips off, and then you can pull your fuel line off of there. Okay, obviously this is a little bit harder to do with a cab on the truck, and then also your tank is in the way here, but it is accessible to do. It just kind of sucks. Now you have these little clips, all right? These little clips here. You can see there's a catch on the edge here. Usually on the outside, there's a little bit of a latch. Most of the time that latch is gone, it's broken off, but it won't let the clip come out. So sometimes you have to compress the end on the outside to get it to release into the black fitting here. However, these just pop right out, and then you can pull your line off like so. All right. Now your white will be your return, and your black will be your feed. As you can see, this clip is black. This one has the little catch on it. So you can see this little catch right here. All right. So there's a little catch here, and sometimes that'll keep you from getting that clip removed. So now you have your feed and your return. All right. Now, your line, once again, attach this line. This is the fuel supply line. All right. So this would be the line that runs directly to your fuel pump replacement block. That's the little aluminum block that the banjo bolt threads into. All right. This is the other end of it. We took it off so I could show this to you. All right. So as you run this down your frame rail, once you get to where your filter bases would be mounted. So ours are going to be mounted here later. However, I showed you at the transfer case. You would cut this at the face of the fuel filter base. Now, that is right here. So your out port. So you want to run the end of that long hose to your out port here. And then once you have a sufficient amount there, you cut the hose, you put your end on, and you would install it here. The other side of this hose, see it has the blue here. Now, if you're not sure, I'm going to show you something here. You can look inside these fittings. All right, so both of these are green, but this one has a blue mark. But you can see that one fitting is obviously larger than the other. All right, so your larger fitting, which is the short guy here, this is your feed, and this is your return now. So once you've cut this off, this hose here will go to your return side, which is the outside rail, and this will run all the way back up to the fuel rail and run to the bottom of the fuel pressure regulator. So the other end of this hose will reach the fuel pressure regulator. This hose, which is short, it will go to your feed side, and this will run to the inside of your fuel filter bases. So this is your supply line. So you got this short hose here. This short hose is your feed. Obviously, we spoke about that. And you can actually take it and put it down in here, and it'll actually clip onto here. Now, we're not going to do it right now, but you want to do your feed first and then do your return later because the return gets in your way. Now, this hose is long enough to reach from the selector here to the fuel pump where you would mount it. Now, like I said, we're going to be mounting ours around here later on, but that'll be in another video. But this line will go to the inside. So once you make sure that you have the right length, you would cut this off, install the appropriate hose end, which works for you, and install it on the inside of the fuel filter bases. Now, I said we were going to be doing something a little bit different with this, so I'm going to be changing this all up. However, the way that this is all installed is super simple. It can be a little bit confusing, like I said, if you've never done one before, but your short hose will come from your selector and head to the in port here. The bulk hose that you have here will come from your return, so come from the selector, and it will run all the way up to the bottom of the regulator. And when I say bottom of the regulator, that is this fitting right here. This is your return. So these two ports, as you saw in the previous video, are installed to the heads, and then this is your return back to your tanks. So this line here starts off fuel block. This runs to your pump. You cut this off. The excess starts at your return at your fuel selector, and the other end of your cutoff hose will run to the bottom of the regulator. So in turn, what this hose is supposed to do is replace both fuel lines from your selector valve all the way up into your valley to this regulator and also to your fuel pump replacement band or bolt or block. So now I know that we did not install this completely all the way. This is going to give you a very good representation of what you have to do to install this kit and all of the little quirks that it does have, such as this vacuum gauge in your ports and your extra line like so. Now, I had previously mentioned that this will line up with one hole on your frame. You can go ahead and bolt that in, and then you can proceed to drill 2 or 3 more holes in your frame to mount this bracket. Now, drilling those holes is not a big deal. It's not going to cause any structural integrity issues. It's not an issue. So you can go ahead. You want to have at least 3 or 4 bolts mounting this on. You could probably get away with 3. I suggest doing 4 total, and then you'll bolt it on with the supplied bolts. And then once you do that, you can adjust your top mounts in and out, and then follow through with Marty's checks. So Marty wants you to do a vacuum check on these. Basically, all this does is it's checking everything prior to the valve to make sure that you don't have any fuel pickup issues. If you have a clogged screen, a clogged foot, clogged line, a messed up selector valve here. So once you do complete those checks, you can go ahead and remove the Marty's diesel vacuum gauge here and install the port. So that is all outlined in his instructions. He gives you a pretty good detailed instruction base on, do this first and then continue your install. Now, we don't have this all hooked up. We have no wiring to run it. I mean, I can hook the lines up here and get it all set up, and I can show that to you in our next video here. But that'll be the end of this video here today, because we're not going to be installing this the way that is interpreted, because we want to have these filters as high as possible. So we're going to mount them a little bit differently. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope that this helps you guys out with installing the Marty's Diesel e-fuel kit. It is a very nice kit. Comes with a lot of parts and pieces, pretty much everything you would need. It's literally everything you need. However, we like to change stuff up a little bit here, so we're going to be doing this a little bit differently. But that's up to me and Brent. How you do yours is up to you, but he provides everything that you absolutely need to install this in your truck, and you will not need any extra parts. The hose is calculated out on both ends. There is enough here to do a crew cab truck. So, your selector valve is always in the same place. It is directly behind the cab, at the back of the cab rather, before the bed. It's up on this vertical rail here. So you will always have the same amount of length from here forward, so that should not change from here back as far as this hose is concerned. If you do any of his upgrades, that changes things as far as, say, like a CNC 4-line kit, or even if you're changing your tanks to a sump or a single tank, that will change everything from here back. But that is also considered an extra. Not most people do that. So we're going to go ahead and finish getting this installed, and we'll do another video with that to show you our upgrades and modifications that we did, so that you could possibly do it a little bit differently if you wanted to, if you didn't want to have a plastic cover on your engine, or if you wanted to use your steel lines over. That'll be covered in the next video. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this helps you out, and we'll catch you on the next one.